everybody, and welcome to your local Forcecast. We are your anchors, Austin
and Morgan.
Welcome today. It's been too long, and that is my fault, so I'm going to apologize right now. I forgot to do my homework for last week's Thursday's episode, so we just canceled it, and we're doing this a once-a-week thing now because I am incredibly busy. So everything is my fault right now. I'm just going to put that out there.
I will say we did try and come up with a backup plan or something kind of on the spot, but anything we thought of, we were kind of like,
This doesn't work.
Yeah, either didn't quite work, or it's like, we'd have to give more prep time or thought to that. So yeah, we apologize for that, but we're back, and we've got a lineup for most of this month. There's 1 week that we haven't figured out quite yet, but we do have a lineup for the rest of the month. Which, before we get into everything, let me just kind of give you the quick rundown of the month. So for today, well, we'll get to our topic for today later. So for next week, when we record on Valentine's Day, next Thursday.
Is that next Thursday?
Yeah, it's next Thursday. Next Thursday on Valentine's Day, we're going to be talking about our favorite ships. Which, for those of you who don't know what ships are, it's basically relationships, pairings, people that you want to get together in TV shows, movies.
Ships, as in relationships.
I am so proud of Lego Batman for doing that. I'm just going to throw that out there. So that'll be, we figure, that'd be an appropriate topic for Valentine's Day.
Yes, our favorite ships, our OTPs, our one true pairings, as it were, in English.
Yes.
Ye old English.
As they say in America.
We're not going to do that right
now.
Yeah,
so we'll just do that from different movies and shows and stuff that we watch. Then the following week, the 21st, we're going to talk about How to Train Your Dragon, because the new How to Train Your Dragon movie
comes out the next day, doesn't it?
Yeah, it comes out on the 22nd, or probably will be premiering Thursday night for the early premieres. But yeah, the new How to Train Your Dragon is that following day, so we're going to talk about that. And also, we did just show Austin the second one, so we are...
Yes, I've seen it, and it was great. Have you seen? Okay, we're going to... It has 100% Rotten Tomatoes right now.
Does it really?
Yeah, I've heard. It has 100%.
The second one or the third?
The third.
Seriously?
I saw it on TV. Mom and Dad were watching football, and it said 100% Rotten Tomatoes for How to Train Your Dragon 3.
I can't wait!
Oh my gosh, that's fantastic.
Let me make sure this is accurate.
I say it may or may not have gone down, but it's worth checking. Anyway, while he's looking for that, the 28th is the one that we are still trying to figure out a topic for. But then we actually do have one in the beginning of March, and that'll be on March 7th, and we're going to be talking about Captain Marvel, and probably go into a little bit about endgame theories and stuff like that, because once again, like with Train Your Dragon, that following day, March 8th, is when Captain Marvel premieres, and we're super excited.
Pardon me, 98%.
Oh, it's gone down? That's the thing, it can be 100% for a day, and then it goes down.
But 98% is amazing.
Well, Black Panther had 100% for actually a couple of days, too, and then it went down. Let's check Black Panther really quick, I'm curious.
Black Panther?
I just want to see where it's still at. I'm pretty sure it's got
I wasn't in Black Panther!
I wasn't in Black Panther! Anthony Mackie.
Black Panther.
I'm just curious to see, just where it's still at.
Chadwick Boseman.
Man, I love Chadwick Boseman. We gotta have an episode where we talk about just Black Panther.
It's at 97.
Yes!
It's at 97 right now. But probably not gonna change.
Which actually, I can't quite remember the exact date, but that film will come out a year ago, this month. Man.
It's true, yeah.
Still an amazing movie. We need to have an episode where we talk specifically about Black Panther.
I think that would mostly be you, but I think that's appropriate.
Maybe we can have Black Panther be for that last day in February.
Maybe.
It
would work, Black History Month.
Yeah, I'm saying, and Black History Month. Okay, I'm gonna slap that in right now. February 28th, we're gonna talk about Black Panther. Just for kicks, really. Alright, so that takes care of our lineup, at least for the rest of the month. Our topic for today, we're going to talk about the origins of the Sith and the Jedi, as per request from my good friend Garen. Before we get into that, for our On This Day segment, I have nothing, literally, for Lord of the Rings, because they had either something at the beginning of, or end of January, and then not till February 14th, which will be next week. But basically, I'm just going to tell you, the Fellowship is still in Lothlorien. That's pretty much all there is.
You say Lothlorien for a really long time.
Yeah, see, it didn't seem very long in the movie, but in the book,
as long as I love Tolkien, But the fact is, sometimes you feel like you're reading in real time.
Uh-huh.
Because they did spend a lot of time in Lothlorien. You just heard my phone go off, by the way. Well, I don't really have a this day in Star Wars, but I want to cover last Thursdays, because this is groundbreaking. Okay, I'm going to read last Thursdays, because I didn't get the chance to. So this is what it says on StarWars.com this day in Star Wars. 1997, January 31st. Fan Albin Johnson wears full Stormtrooper armor to a Star Wars premiere. The reaction he receives sparks his interest in gathering armored fans to form a costuming group known as the 501st Legion.
Woo! 501st!
So, for those of you who don't know, the 501st is a fan legion. That's pretty much the way you get into it, is usually they want you to make a movie, like, screen accurate set, like, costume. Usually armor. Stormtrooper armor is the most common, but things like, Dark Trooper armor, like now you can do the Death Trooper, Royal Guards, officers' uniforms. You can go on their website. They have, and it's not just Imperials. They've got clones, clone commandos, ARC Troopers. They've got other costumes as well. They've got just a huge freaking array of these costumes. There's the one that's the Mandalorian Legion, right, Paul? That's the one you're looking at?
It's the Mandalorian Mercenaries.
Mercenaries, those Mandalorian Legion. Mandalorian Mercenaries. You make Mandalorian armor. If you do it well enough, they let you in. It's intense stuff, man.
Oh, yeah, I remember seeing some of their stuff before. They're nuts.
And for today, I don't really have anything, but tomorrow, February 8th, is the birthday of one Mr. John Williams.
Woo! Happy birthday, John Williams!
John Williams, creator of... We went over this in the freaking...
episode 2 weeks ago.
The music episode. John Williams is great. Love his stuff.
John Williams is the man.
Many an iconic theme has come from this man, and we owe him so much, especially in Star Wars. We owe pretty much everything. Because even though I'm not a big fan of the prequels, John Williams tried so hard in the prequels. His music for the prequels, except one song I'm not a fan of, are amazing. The music for the prequels is amazing. It's some of the best in Star Wars.
I'm thinking in tribute to John Williams, in honor of his birthday, there's a song on YouTube by the group Moose Butter.
It's an old...
It's very old. Like, I heard this back when I was 14 years old, so that's like a decade ago.
6th grade. 6th grade for me.
6th grade for you? Well, there you go.
Pretty much still a decade ago.
But anyway, it's this a cappella group that put together this fun Star Wars medley, but it's to all of John Williams' like famous themes they came up with, like Jurassic Park, Indiana Jones,
Except for Star Wars, because it's it's an ode. It's using lines and stuff from Star Wars to do an ode to John Williams.
Superman.
So it's got like Indiana Jones, it's got E.T., it's got Superman, it's got Jaws.
Oh yeah.
It's got a couple others I can't remember right now. Jurassic Park, I think
I will include the link to that in the description
below.
Yep. So happy birthday, John Williams.
Fun fact: if those of you did not know, for those of you who saw Solo, Han Solo has a theme in that movie. Is not present in any of the other movies. Unlike Rogue One, John Williams didn't compose all the music for Solo or for Rogue One. He did compose the Han Solo theme. He wrote the Han Solo theme for Solo. He recorded one song that's technically not in the movie. It's just kind of an overture of the theme. And then there's another guy who did the whole score, but he used John Williams' theme for Han Solo in the movie.
Huh. Wasn't there something you mentioned about the standalone films?
Oh yeah, I think it's like in 2013. Yesterday they announced the standalone films, so like Rogue One and Solo and untold movies. We don't even know what is coming out next. Personally, I'm just fine getting more Star Wars.
Kenobi.
Hashtag we want.
We want an Obi-Wan Kenobi spinoff. Make it so.
Hashtag Ewan McGregor.
Ewan McGregor. No one else. I will accept no one else. Anyway, is that all we have for Star Wars?
That is all we have for Star Wars today.
All right, so now...
At least in terms of real life stuff.
Yeah.
The rest of today's episode.
The on this day stuff. So, our topic today, origins of the Sith and the Jedi. Austin has most of the information on this.
If you can get Wikipedia pulled up for me, to just background check some of these people and stuff I'm going to mention, that'd be great.
Okay, sure.
So, I know I monopolize a lot, and I'm sorry. It's just the way I am.
Are you doing the Sith or the Jedi first?
Well, I'm going to start first off, because it's Garen, right? Your friend's name's Garen?
Yes.
So, you asked me, Garen, he asked me to look into the Grey Jedi. The Grey Jedi in the Legends, because they're not really a thing in the canon, maybe they are, but it's one of those, they weren't exact, there wasn't an actual, like, order called the Grey Jedi. They were never really an accepted thing. Grey Jedi were more along the lines of Jedi who... Yeah, that's pretty much. Who either disagreed with the Council a lot, or they just left the Jedi Order and just kind of followed their own path. Usually they were ones who were more in touch with their emotions. Like, Ahsoka Tano could be considered a Grey Jedi.
Mm-hmm.
Because she did not technically become a Jedi. But technically she couldn't be because she's not a Jedi. They were actual Jedi. Sometimes they were used for people who weren't Jedi. But, like, Qui-Gon Jinn could be considered a Grey Jedi. He's actually kind of the quintessential one, because he was still a Jedi, and he still followed the teachings, but he disagreed with the Council a lot. They mentioned in Episode 1, he defied the Council plenty of times.
Oh, yes, he did.
Hang on a second.
I'm reading a lot on the Grey Jedi, but...
But yeah, well, that's just kind of just filler stuff. I mean, are you in the Legends of the canon, though?
I don't know.
Well, it's just Legends. Okay.
Oh, Legends.
There are some,
so is this not the canon stuff?
No, but yeah, so it's one of those things that they're not really a thing. They weren't an official order of any sort of type. So that's one thing I will say about that. So that's one thing there. In terms of the Sith, so again, I'm prefacing this with the fact that because I'm just going to give a little background for anyone who might not be familiar with this, because ever since Episode 6 came out, there's been a lot of books, and actually since before Episode 6, there's been a lot of books, been a lot of comic books, been a lot of video games, there's been a lot of stuff coming out for Star Wars. An expanded universe, if you will, as it's been called, usually concentrated around certain time periods, like, you know, the era of time after Episode 6 was heavily written about. Like, what happened to Luke, what happened to Leia, what happened to Han and Chewie, what happened to all these people. And then, around the original 3 movies, a lot has been written about that time. And then, you know, the prequels came out, and a lot of stuff happened there. And about 1,000 years before, there's a lot of written. 3,000 years before, there's a lot written. And so, just a lot of stuff. So, when Disney went and bought Lucasfilm, they decanonized all of it except for the movies and the television shows, and everything from here on out. So anything that's been written or made since Disney bought Star Wars is officially canon, because they now work together. Because the expanded universe was actually quite cluttered and almost contradictory a lot. They had to hire a guy, his name was Leland Chee, at least for a while it was, at Lucasfilm, to be the guy who, if there were 2 things that contradicted each other, he had to say which one was canon and which one was not.
That's kind of smart, actually.
It is, because there was a lot of authors, like, there was no collaboration. They would just write stuff, and it would get published, and sometimes people wouldn't proofread it. There'd be stuff, either little stuff or big stuff, that would contradict what was written.
See, that's where you're smart. You do your research.
Well, this is from a while ago.
I know.
Well, yeah, I'm smart, but it also costs me.
Yes, it does.
For instance, actually, one of the things... Well, I actually can't go into that. It's not really important. But... I'll tell you later.
Okay.
But one of the things, so it's like... But the thing is, movies and television shows always took precedence over this expanded universe. Like, for example, I guess I will go into it. In Heir to the Empire, which was written by Timothy Zahn, the introduction of Grand Admiral Thrawn in the original expanded universe, there was a thing mentioned, and I only know this from the Clone Wars, called Clone Masters. Oh. They would reference the Clone Wars, and they would reference these mysterious people called Clone Masters. Well, never once in Attack of the Clones, Revenge of the Sith, or the Clone Wars is an entity called a Clone Master mentioned in any way, shape, or form.
They never said that.
And from what I understand in the description they gave in the books, they're like these mysterious things. There's no mention of this at all. So clearly the Clone Wars, George Lucas didn't really go out of his way to include the expanded universe in his things, which is a shame for some of it. Not all the expanded universe was great, in my opinion. So that was one thing. So when I give this information, some of it is from the new canon. They've gone through, it's been a few years since they bought Lucasfilm, so there's of course been the new movies, there's been some new stuff established there. We've got Rebels, Resistance, the Clone Wars, and some new books and things that have come out to help explain the timelines and everything. But it's a little cluttered, and so sometimes I will dip into the expanded universe stuff. So what I say, I try to go off of the best information available. It might not all be 100% accurate. So, that being said, the Sith. Well, as it always goes, the Sith were originally Jedi. Should I start with the Jedi then? There's not a lot on the Jedi, but I'll start with the Jedi.
It's up to you. Go ahead, yeah.
So the Jedi, in the new canon, originally were on the planet of Ahch-To, which is what we see in Force Awakens and The Last Jedi. It's where they first built their temple. It doesn't really say how they got started. In fact, really nothing does. I haven't really found anything that says how the Jedi officially got started. Which I think is probably on purpose. It's kind of this whole mysterious... I remember in the expanded universe there was a thing where they went as far back, like really far back, and they had these big diamond-shaped ships that would fly around the galaxy and pick up Force-sensitive children and bring them originally to the planet of Tython to be trained as Jedi. But nothing ever really says where the Jedi came from, which is probably on purpose to add to their mystique.
Well, it makes sense.
But originally, so they started on the planet of Ahch-To. They first built their temple there, and later expanded to what the Wikipedia, or StarWars.wikia.com, which is where I get most of this information. Actually, 100% of this information. They expanded to the planets of Ossus, Tython, Ossus, Tython. There's two others. Can you look this up for me real quick, please?
Sure thing.
Actually, no. I should have it pulled up.
Yeah, see, because I have it for the Sith pulled up,
Okay, I should have
not
it.
the,
If I
not
search,
the Jedi.
I should have the Jedi pulled up. Here we go. Yeah. Should I explain canon? So let's see. History. Explained to the planets of Ahch-To, Coruscant, and Jedha. Of course, Jedha.
Duh.
So Coruscant,
How did I
Ossus,
not think
Tython,
of
and
that?
Jedha. So those are eventually, and those are just some. Like we know about a temple on Deveron, from the Clone Wars. But those are just some of their big stuff. And Ossus and Tython are from the expanded universe, especially the game the Old Republic. Not Knights of the Old Republic. It's not in there, but it's in the Old Republic, which is a game I play. It's a very fun game. I still like it. I love the story aspect. My friend Spencer and I play it a lot. It's fun to play, in my opinion. And eventually, and the thing is, the canon now of the Jedi really does not have a lot. The Jedi, they were a mysterious order who wielded the Force, and then literally they expand, and then literally all it gives that eventually the Clone Wars happen. That's pretty much all we get.
Yeah.
But I guess I can intertwine the two histories because they do play off each other rather easily. So then we have the Sith. In every iteration, the Sith were once Jedi. Simple as that. In the canon, it gives that a rogue Jedi, it doesn't give his name, but the legends gave it as Ajunta Paul. He was a Sith. Well, he was a Jedi. Eventually, they fell to the dark side, and he and a few others. I think originally just they wanted to experiment with another side of the Force that no one really wanted to touch, and they fell. And during what was called the 100 Years Darkness, I forget exactly why, but this is
I
also...
literally just got that on this article.
Also a thing from the expanded universe. The 100 Years Darkness was a thing in the expanded universe. There was like wars with the Dark Jedi. They were originally called Dark Jedi, just on I guess now Ahch-To, but on Tython. Eventually, they were kicked out and sent across the galaxy, and ended up on the planet of Korriban, now known as Moraband, which I just had a little rant earlier tonight about why I don't like that.
You can repeat it if you want.
So the original name was called Korriban, right? The expanded universe, that's what it was, Korriban, the home world of the Sith. George Lucas apparently thought that sounded too much like Coruscant, and in the Clone Wars changed it to Moraband, which I am not a fan of, just personally. I know it's his universe, and he can do what he wants, but I'm not a big fan of the fact that he changed it.
I don't even like Moraband either.
Korriban sounds cooler, mostly just because I'm used to it. Even though the design of Moraband in the Clone Wars is straight out of the Old Republic. Like, literally, it's the exact same thing. Kid you not.
Well, and I remember there was a like a cutscene or maybe a trailer actually from I think it was Tor that you showed me. It was with Malgus.
Oh yeah, Korriban is ours again.
Yeah, see the way he said it, Korriban sounds so much cooler. But I picture him.
Is ours.
Yeah, see, I picture him saying Moraband. It doesn't work.
It doesn't work. Darth Malgus,
then
one of the most badass Sith.
Was it his master that he killed? Yeah.
So anyway, so going back to the expanded universe just for this. They get to Korriban, these Dark Jedi. They find their way to Korriban, and on this planet are a race of red-skinned creatures. Who look very Red Skull-like. Imagine Red Skull with a nose and kind of little droopy, almost tentacle things hanging off his face. And that is the Sith. The Sith was originally their species. There's a species called the Sith. And eventually these Dark Jedi just adopted the name of Sith.
I did not know.
Yes. That was in the expanded universe. There was a race, a species... Many, like, what's his name? Not Mark Aragnos. He might have been. What was his name? Yavin created the Masasi. Not Mark Aragnos. The Sith. Paul,
I'm looking it up right now.
you know the name. I mean, you should know the name.
I know I
Who
should.
created the Massassi?
How the heck do you even spell that?
Massassi.
Oh, well, thank you.
Created the Massassi. Created by...
Of course, it's not actually showing the name. Where's the
Name.
name?
Oh, it's gonna hit me like a freaking bullet.
Will you explain what the Masasi is while you're looking?
The Massassi were pretty much a mutation of the Sith species created by a Sith. Not a Junta Paul, but he was correct.
Naga Sato.
Naga Sadao! Every time. Naga Sadao. He created them. He's big on Yavin 4. But yeah, they were kind of just mutation. The Sith did a lot of like Sith alchemy and Sith sorcery, just really dark crap. Actually, could you look up Naga Sadao for me real quick?
Oh, actually, I just got to him right
There you
here.
go. Because there's a thing
wow,
on...
he's one ugly dude.
He is, but that's almost somewhat badass looking. Like, it's really creepy.
Meh.
I want to see this because Paul just scrolled past him. I want to see his look because he had a showdown. Was it with Ludo Kresh or was with who did he have a showdown with in front of the Emperor? Naga Sadao battles Lugo Kresh. Okay. So, for a while on Korriban, there was Naga Sadao. He was kind of the Emperor of the Sith. And eventually, I think Ludo Kresh, who was another Sith, and Naga Sadao, also a Sith, dueled for the top spot, I think.
Ah.
Neither of them became the Emperor eventually. Well, I think Naga Sadao did. Well, I don't know. They're a very big, important Sith. And I think I know more about the Sith because the Sith are infinitely more interesting than the Jedi, in my opinion. Paul's looking at me like he has something to say. Do you have something to say?
No.
Okay. One of the major Sith to note in this time period is a man by the name who goes by the Sith name of Vitiate. Who I won't go into his backstory because this is long.
You may want to enunciate that name a little
Vitiate.
bit. Okay. Just saying.
Born Tenebrae. Literally sucked the life out of his entire planet to make himself stronger.
How do you do that?
A very dark Sith ritual.
Dang.
He eventually became the Emperor. Very mysterious Emperor of the Sith Empire. And eventually came along the Mandalorian Wars.
Oh,
where
boy.
two particular people named Revan and Malak drove the Mandalorians back against the better wishes of the Jedi Council. They were Jedi. And eventually found their way to the planet of Dromund Kaas, which was kind of the capital world of this reforming empire. The Sith were still training on Korriban, but in secret, these Sith were building up something. It also mentions in the canon that while they're on Korriban, there was a war where they built a shrine on Coruscant. Because apparently, if there's like a magical ley line or something like that, there's like a spring of light side energy, you could say, on Coruscant. And the Sith wanted to try to taint it with this shrine. So they built a shrine. So instead of trying to, maybe they couldn't, but instead of, trying to break the shrine, they just built a temple over it. The Jedi Temple on Coruscant rests over a Sith shrine. I don't know why they didn't just break the thing. Maybe they couldn't, but
I don't see.
They
built see why not.
They built a temple over it, hoping that their positive vibes would
feel my positive vibes, man.
Would just like that's pretty much what it is. hoping the presence of 10,000 Jedi would help to suppress the dark side coming out of this shrine. Apparently it did not, and it's supposedly the reason the Jedi Council actually went a little bit cuckoo during the Clone Wars and started being suspicious of each other and giving into fear. So yeah, we have that thing to thank for it. It was supposed to be It was supposed to be episodes of the Clone Wars about it. Actually, Ahsoka and a bunch of people were going to discover this shrine. So yeah, we have that to thank for the Jedi Council expelling Ahsoka. Directly, we have that thing directly to thank. So thank you, Ancient Sith.
Yep.
I actually do say thank you because Ahsoka would have died if not for that. So.
Oh.
She would have been in Order 66. She would have died.
Yeah,
Anakin
you're
would
right.
probably have had to kill her. Actually, Anakin would have definitely had to kill her. Which would have been very, very sad.
That would have been horrible.
Very sad. Been worse to see him kill her than Darth Vader. I mean,
Yeah.
it's Anakin.
That would have been absolutely terrible.
Anyway, so that's that. So eventually the Sith. This is also going off of the Old Republic and Knights of the Old Republic right now. The Sith Emperor Vitiate on Dromund Kaas, which was his capital world, converted Revan and Malak to the dark side, and after leaving the Republic as Jedi and defeating the Mandalorians at Malachor 5, they returned as Sith and Sith conquerors. Revan eventually was betrayed by Malak, and in an amnesic state was reformed by the Jedi, who then rediscovered he was Malak. Or that he was Revan. He didn't remember. Eventually becoming my favorite Jedi of all time by balancing the light and dark sides of the Force. I love Revan for that.
Yeah, that's how I knew you and Paul would get along on our first date.
Revan is the greatest.
They both mentioned Revan as their favorite Star Wars character.
In the era of the Old Republic, eventually the Sith Empire comes back under the direct control of Emperor Vitiate and retakes Korriban. Actually, they were not in Korriban at this point. They were driven off during these wars. But again, this is all expanded universe at this point. And enter one of my favorite Sith, Darth Malgus.
Oh, boy.
Who is, so great. So great. In the video game The Old Republic, they had a series of cinematic trailers, 3 of them, all of which were focused on Malgus. Because he was kind of he was the original central baddie for kind of the whole overarching game. And he is freaking beastly. He looks like a Darth Vader concept art, and I'm pretty sure he was based off that. He's bald, he's pale skin. He's like gray skin. He's not even pale. He's got gray skin.
Yeah, he's gray.
He's got like veins coming out his head. He's got this awesome mask on, this like, respirator mask. He's got this freaking wicked armor and a lightsaber that has
he's definitely got to be based
He's got a
off
lightsaber that's got
Vader.
2 claws coming out. These metal claws coming out the side. Looks like Barad-dûr, like on his lightsaber. He used that crap to stab somebody. You've seen his lightsaber.
It's been a while.
Paul, look it up, please. Darth Malgus' lightsaber. So Darth Malgus is a beast, and the reason why, because in the second trailer, which they go backwards. The first trailer starts kind of at the end, during what is known as the sacking of Coruscant, when the Sith invade, right there, when the Sith invade Coruscant and destroy the Jedi Temple. Malgus himself leads the charge, and they go back to Alderaan when Malgus had just become a Darth, and they go back to the beginning when they reinvaded Korriban. In the second one, Malgus gets lit on fire, gets a grenade exploded in his face, then gets slammed into a mountainside by Satele Shan, one of the best Jedi. One of the best Jedi. And he still walks away from it.
She's a cool boss
awesome.
of a woman.
She's awesome. And she understands balance now, which makes me happy.
And she uses a double-bladed lightsaber. What?
Yes. So, she is also the descendant of Revan and Bastila Shan, who was the Knights of the Old Republic, and they fell in love and had a baby, and eventually became Satele a few hundred years down the road. So she's extremely powerful. Descendant of Revan and Bastila. I mean, they're both Jedi, and they're both super powerful, so... Eventually, through all that, we actually don't know what happened to that empire, because they've yet to wrap up the storyline of the Old Republic. But Malgus is a beast. He's still alive, apparently, at least in the game. I'm still catching up on everything. Well, I have caught up on everything, but they've not finished. I kind of wish they'd finished at this point. In terms of the history of the Sith, as we go on, eventually, about 1,000 years before the movies, we get to the Jedi-Sith War. I think that's what, or the Sith-Jedi War. There's a lot of wars between the Jedi and the Sith. Now, for this time period, for this entire time, the Sith have been like the Jedi. There's been a lot of them, like thousands of them. The only problem is, the Sith like to kill each other. Like, that's what they do. They kill each other a lot. Looking up Darth, yep, he is. So the Sith like to kill each other. And if you have an army of dudes next to you who you don't trust while you're fighting the dudes in front of you,
Whom you also don't trust?
That's not an out. Well, of course you don't trust the dudes you're fighting, but you should trust the guys you're fighting with or fighting beside. The Sith don't. They always just try to kill each other. It's dumb, So there was a guy among all this in the expanded universe, Lord Khan's Brotherhood of Darkness, K-A-A-N, not K-A-H-N.
Good to know.
They were Sith on Korriban, Moraband, whatever. There was hundreds of them. They were fighting the Jedi. And the problem is, there was a guy among them who saw this, like, I can't fight the enemy in front of me when my ally behind me is going to stab me in the back. It doesn't work. He was looking at the philosophy of the Sith and realized it was flawed in its current state. So he decided, I'm going to make a change. This man's name was Darth Bane. For those of you who know who Darth Bane is, he's very important to the Sith. He creates what we know from the era of the Clone Wars and of really the entire movies, except for the sequels, the rule of 2 among the Sith.
Oh, yeah.
Always 2 there are, Yoda says. Bane creates the rule of two. There shall only be two. One to a master and apprentice. One to embody the power, and the other to crave it. That's the rule he makes. And it's actually a pretty decent rule. Because if there's only two, there's only one way it's going to go down, usually. Because the Sith, like Jedi, are more, metaphysical, I guess.
Yeah.
They're not as attached to the physical world. The Sith love the physical world.
So now, quick question. Who had the rule of two first? Was it the Sith or the Jedi? Because the Jedi have pretty much the same rule.
Well, they have a master and apprentice, but there's thousands of them.
So they don't have specifically the rule of two like the Sith?
No. The rule of two for the Sith is there are only two. Only two. Like the Jedi, they have the master and apprentice thing, but a Jedi master can take several apprentices. Not at the same time.
Huh.
But
why did they give Qui-Gon crap for wanting to take on Anakin?
Because he already had one. He had Obi-Wan.
But you just said they can have thousands of apprentices at a time.
No. I said they can have several apprentices, not at the same time.
Oh.
Because remember, Obi-Wan, quote-unquote, was lying, but in the Clone Wars, Obi-Wan was saying he was going to ask for another apprentice during the Clone Wars. Of course,
and
he
then
was lying.
Anakin and said,
He was
"Nope,
lying.
she's
He
yours."
was lying, but it was a thing that could be done.
I'm actually here to work with Master Skywalker.
Great moment. But anyway,
I love that.
they so the rule of two is they're like, because the Jedi have hundreds. They have 10,000 Jedi Knights. There are only two Sith. Ever at a time. At least there's only supposed to be. That's why Darth Sidious gets mad when Darth Maul's like, "Hey, I'm Sith." He's like, I'm Sith. You're not Sith. I'm Sith.
I'm sure you are.
I'm Dark Lord of the Sith. You are not Sith. I'm Dark Lord. You are not. So
Can they redo the scene just in that
So,
fashion?
also fun fact, in the Clone Wars, they brought Darth Bane in as kind of a Force ghost for an episode, and they had Mark Hamill voice him.
They
Luke's-
did?
Yeah.
For what episode was
It was one of the episodes that they aired on Netflix with Yoda.
Oh, I never saw those.
You never saw those? Oh, they're great. There's an episode where they have Darth Bane's Force ghost talk to Yoda, and it's Mark Hamill.
Oh my gosh, that's
It was
fantastic.
great. That right there, that's from the Clone Wars.
Still doesn't look familiar.
Well, yeah, because you've never seen it, so.
I know.
But anyway,
Creepy, though.
the rule of two is very good, and Darth Bane, he created a legacy that lasted because it really could only go... So the Sith, they didn't like dying. They did anything they could to prevent themselves from dying. They tried to prolong their life as long as possible. So it clearly only went down one way, or one of two ways. You are the master. You have all the power. You take an apprentice. You train this person, little by little, to make them powerful. Eventually, they want to become the master. So it goes down one of a couple of ways. One, they go and they kill the master. They just go and they kill him. Or, they train an apprentice in secret, like several have done. Count Dooku was doing it. In the expanded universe, Darth Vader was kind of doing it. Not really doing it, but kind of doing it. And then the apprentice and the apprentice's apprentice go and kill the master. And then the apprentice is the master, and the apprentice's apprentice is now the apprentice. Or the master kills the apprentice and then gets a new one. Like, it just kind of goes that one of pretty much three ways. And so that cycle continues on. And they worked from the shadows. Darth Bane was like, open war with the Jedi does not work.
Open war is upon you, whether you would risk it or not.
Thank you, Aragorn.
Sorry.
So what do? They go into the shadows. Eventually we get to Darth Sidious, who, becomes Chancellor of the Republic and also the one pulling the strings behind the Separatist army, literally in the only winning position of the Clone Wars.
Well, don't forget he started off as Senator of Naboo first.
Well, yeah, Senator of Naboo, but eventually worked his way up to be Chancellor.
See, God, I keep forgetting that he's actually from
Can
Naboo.
we also say it's Natalie Portman's fault that he became Chancellor?
Freaking Natalie Portman.
It's Padme's fault. So
Blame you.
Eventually we get Sidious, who works his way up to be Chancellor, and again, the one pulling the strings behind the Separatists, the only winner of the Clone Wars. No matter who won, he did. Is a masterful position. I give that to him. If the Republic won, he was still Chancellor. If the Separatists won, he was still in charge. Like, he had it figured out. Like, that was what Sidious is the pinnacle of what Darth Bane wanted to achieve with his rule of two. And it worked. Worked for Sidious. It took 1,000 years after Darth Bane died, but eventually he made it.
Where in the history of the Sith does Darth Plagueis fall?
Darth Plagueis, at least in the expanded universe, and still accepted by fans, is Sidious's master.
Okay.
It's never said. I mean, in the movie, he does say in the Darth Plagueis legend, he tells Anakin. He says that Plagueis taught his apprentice everything he knew, and then he killed him in his sleep. And you kind of get this look on Palpatine's face that it was him. And then he also says later, my master taught me everything he knew. So it's generally assumed at that point that Plagueis was his master. There was
canon according to Wikipedia. That
okay, so he is
Plagueis
Palpatine's
is
master.
Oh.
So
Sidious.
Darth Plagueis was Palpatine's master. In the expanded universe, he was immune. You know that big long face thing? The banking clan will sign your treaty. That's Darth Plagueis.
Wait, that's what Plagueis was?
Yeah, that's what Plagueis was.
Oh, that's so lame!
Yeah, that right there, that's Plagueis.
That's still lame to me. That, like, totally ruins my image of him.
Yeah, but Plagueis was he was Sidious's master, and then Sidious kills him in his sleep. He killed him in his sleep. Pablo Hidalgo said that a year and a half before The Last Jedi came out. Plagueis is not Snoke. Sorry, getting on a rant.
Disproving that ridiculous
It
theory
was Pablo
right
Hidalgo.
now.
It was Pablo Hidalgo long before anyone else said it.
Remind me again one more time who Pablo Hidalgo is.
He is the man. He's one of the Lucasfilm story group.
Oh, got it,
He's
got it,
pretty
got it.
much the man who says what is what in Lucasfilm these days. He says
Can
what's
he-
canon and what is
Can
not.
he come out and just get
He
just,
has.
just
He did. He
all
tweeted
the theories?
about Snoke being Plagueis. Yeah, he
No,
tweeted.
I'm saying can he come out and disprove every single theory
Well,
that's out there we all know is
That's
wrong?
not entirely his job. He
But
does
it's
other things.
ridiculous and it's tearing the fandom apart.
Yes. Well, it's the fact that they won't accept the truth. So anyway, we're gonna keep going with this.
Freaking
So this is kind of the very brief history of the Sith, because we've got the Sith we could talk about, like Exar Kun, Yula Keldroma, and there's plenty others.
Why did that name sound familiar to me?
The Clone Wars video game I had that I played a lot when I was little, they mentioned Yula Keldroma with the Dark Reaper.
Oh, yay! Oh, yes! Wow, that was a long time ago.
Yeah, he was originally part of my books, if you remember.
Oh, that's right, it was.
He was originally Cronus' brother.
He's in
oh.
KOTOR.
Is he in KOTOR? He's not. He's probably mentioned in KOTOR.
Drama?
Yeah, he's probably mentioned in KOTOR.
I mean, his armor is found. And
Oh, okay.
There's a
Wow,
lot of
that game was
references
a-
to him and kind of like hidden
Yeah.
data pads you find, but
Yeah, Keldroma. He
Wow,
and Exar
that
he and
game is
Exar Kun
so
created
old.
he and Exar Kun created a thing called the Dark Reaper using the Force Harvester. That was a dark side artifact that could literally suck the Force out of living things.
I remember that game.
Very fun game.
That Dark Reaper was... That was a legit thing.
That thing was impossible to beat. That's not true, but for me, it was so freaking impossible to beat that thing. As a boss fight to end all boss fights right there. But yeah, they created the Dark Reaper, which is pretty much a flying saucer that had a device that could suck the Force out of living things. It would have decimated the Jedi, but Keldroma turned on Exar Kun, who actually killed him. And then... Actually, no, he didn't kill him. No, Keldroma killed his brother, which then turned him back.
Oh.
K. Keldroma was his name. Then turned him back to the light side, who then turned on Exar Kun and told the Jedi how to defeat the Dark Reaper.
Oh.
He died on Renvar. In the expanded universe, anyway. He's not canon anymore, but
I had almost forgotten about that.
I still love that game. I go back and play it every couple of years.
You know, was that a GameCube game?
No, it's GameCube.
Yeah, I believe that.
It was the first GameCube game I had. Remember when we didn't...
Really?
I didn't well, I remember because we didn't realize GameCubes need memory cards. So I could never actually play past the first level.
Oh.
If I did,
Yeah.
I would have to sit there and do a continuous session of play in order to... And that was years and years and years and years and years and years ago when I got that GameCube.
Man.
GameCube, one of the greatest game stations of all time. I'm going to say it right now.
Well, that just gave me a little shot of nostalgia, and I didn't even
know.
play the game.
Great stuff.
I just remember watching you play that a whole lot. That was a good game. No, the games I played were the Lord of the Rings ones or Quidditch.
Yep.
Oh, Quidditch was so flippin' fun.
Rogue Squadron, great games. Great game series.
That was the 64, wasn't it?
64 and GameCube. The original Rogue Squadron was on 64, and then Rogue
Oh,
Squadrons
okay,
2 and 3 were on GameCube.
I do remember there's a Rogue Squadron for GameCube. I just remember
There's
the
two Rogue Squadrons for GameCube,
Well, yeah, I just remembered the Nintendo 64 version.
which is still a great game.
Yeah, I could never get that. Those flying games, I could never master those.
Yeah, but we're getting off topic. But
Well, I mean, it's
We're
still
still
on,
talking-
it's
we're
still
still
on
talking
Star
Star
Wars,
Wars, yeah.
so it's somewhat on topic.
yeah, unfortunately, my knowledge of the Sith is very sporadic and not at all full. I can't give you a full rundown. Of course, they're defeated at the hands of Darth Vader and Luke Skywalker on over Endor, because
Yep.
Kylo Ren and Snoke are not Sith. Snoke was actually born 200 years before the events of the movies. He was a silent observer during the events of the movies. Yeah, that's pretty much it with Snoke, because he and Ren are not Sith. Because you don't just... Pablo Hidalgo said this. When you fall to the dark side, you don't just become Sith. Like, oh, I am now Sith. The Sith are a way of life. It's a set of teachings that you have to be taught to become Sith.
Well, and with how imbalanced that Ren is, he could never be a Sith, honestly.
He could certainly be a Sith, but...
Well, do you think so? You're more of an expert on it than me.
I mean, if you can master the teachings. And I guess I should go over the Sith code. Peace is a lie. There's only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain victory. Paul, correct me on this?
That's not it.
No?
I'll just
Through
say,
strength,
I literally just read
through
this.
strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.
Yes.
I will just say pretty much most of that, he did that memorized. Just throwing that out
All
there.
of that I did memorized. I messed up on that one line. But yes, peace is a lie. There's only passion. Through passion, I gain strength. Through strength, I gain power. Through power, I gain victory. Through victory, my chains are broken. The Force shall free me.
Jedi code, go.
Jedi code? There is no emotion, there is peace. I don't know the Jedi code as well as the Sith code. Because the Jedi code is dumb. There is no emotion, there is peace.
There is no ignorance.
There is no ignorance, there is knowledge.
There is no passion.
There is no passion, there is humility, I believe. I'm looking at your screen so I can kind of see it. There's serenity. Excuse me.
There is no chaos.
There's no chaos.
harmony.
There's harmony. There is no death, there is the Force.
Mhm.
You can actually hear the first lines of that being whispered in the wind in The Last Jedi when Rey starts hearing the tree. You know, there's no emotion, there is peace. I'm not a fan of the Jedi Code. It's kind of just, it's artsy-fartsy, just all peace and sunshine and rainbows.
You can go on your rant if you'd like.
About the Jedi? I could
Yep.
go on a rant about the Jedi. I probably shouldn't, but...
You should.
The Jedi are stupid.
Get it out.
The Jedi are stupid. And we have technically the Sith Shrine to blame for their being dumb, but I don't like that because their teachings are stupid. Let's just look at this no attachments rule, okay? Literally every Jedi in history has broken the no attachments rule in
Yoda?
some... Except Yoda.
Mace Windu.
Mace Windu's uncertain. Okay. Mace Windu and Yoda are probably the only ones who've kept it, alright? Every Jedi has formed attachments. Maybe they haven't fallen in love, but they formed attachments in some way, shape, or form. Like Anakin, they give crap to Anakin for Padme and Ahsoka, but every Jedi did it. Obi-Wan Kenobi did it, alright?
Yeah, he had Satine.
He had Satine. He had attachments to Anakin. But it's like, you know, this whole no attachments thing is literally what caused their downfall. Let's think about this scenario. They denying their emotions. You know, they're afraid of their emotions, which is funny because fear is a tool of the Sith. They're afraid of emotions.
Mm-hmm. So that already is a huge flaw.
Problem. So let's say they don't have this rule. Well, let's look at what happened. They have this rule: no attachments. You cannot form attachments to other living beings. You must be closed off like a droid, like a robot, like an android. So Anakin goes and he falls in love in the worst movie of all time with Padme Amidala.
The worst Star Wars movie.
The worst Star Wars movie of all time, yes.
There are plenty of worse movies out there.
And, you know, by floating pears at her.
Ugh.
And doesn't like sand and
I'm
all
a
that.
hopeless romantic, yet all of that just made me want to blow
So
my
he doesn't
brains
like
out.
sand and all that, so he falls in love with this. That is not canon, by the way. What you're looking at, Paul, is not
I know.
canon.
I just like it though.
It is interesting, and I don't want to fight. I don't know, but anyway, he's looking at the Grey Jedi Code right now, which is a fan-made thing. It's not a canon-made thing.
Because there's no Grey Jedi.
Yep, there's no Grey Jedi Order. So anyway, falls in love with Padme, gets married. Can't tell the Jedi.
Yep.
Can't tell anybody. So for the entire Clone Wars, there's this... Well, the thing is, he's so obvious about it. Obi-Wan obviously knew. But it's like, everyone should have known. Ahsoka found out. Ahsoka found out, actually. She did find out.
Yes.
There was actually one of those... They had like a little thing on YouTube, Forces of Destiny, which is mostly... It's a little cartoon thing that mostly focuses on the women of Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
There was one with Anakin, Padme, and Ahsoka where Ahsoka saw them, like... They almost died, so they were like hugging each other very close and tight, and Ahsoka saw that. She also said when she left the Jedi Order... Because Anakin was like, I understand more than you know about wanting to leave the Jedi Order. And she said, I know.
Yeah. I figured that as much.
Also, in that Forces of Destiny thing, she had a moment with Padme where she was like, hey, I saw you too.
Hey, by the way, I know.
Yeah. So Ahsoka knew. Everyone knew. Because, like, whenever Padme's in trouble, where does Anakin go? After Padme. Like...
It's so
The fact that the Jedi don't know, like, the fact that Obi-Wan knows makes sense because he knows Anakin, but the fact that no one else knew oh, you're just too attached to her.
That's
Look a
another
little
reason why the
deeper,
Jedi
Mace.
are stupid. They are
Look a
so
little-
unobservant.
Look a little deeper, Mace Windu. But anyway, they have this rule, so Anakin can't tell anybody. So what does he do? He just bottles it up. He can't tell anybody. He goes to Yoda in episode 3. He's like, I see someone dying. And he's like, oh, just let go of your emotions. So who does he turn to? His friend Palpatine. Or his pal, friend Patine. Riff Tracks joke. He goes to Palpatine, who exploits this and turns him to the dark side. So let's run scenario A, or scenario B, technically.
Well, and then he said, I'm going to learn this new power to save you.
Mm-hmm.
And it drove him crazy.
And they killed his wife. And I'm pretty sure,
No, she lost the will to live.
Actually, I'm pretty
remember?
sure the explanation is that he drained her life force to keep himself alive.
Mm.
Because I think the thing is, I don't know if it's canon, but I think it's supposed to be, I think there was a thing written somewhere that maybe wasn't canon, I don't know, but supposedly, like, in order to keep himself alive, he didn't do this willingly, or knowingly, but it drained her life force. Because then it makes more sense than lost the will to live. She's had 2 babies, and she lost the will to live.
Yeah, can we go with the other explanation? Because that makes it sound a little bit better.
But it also goes in line with what Sidious said, in your anger you killed her. Because in my mind it makes sense that the dark side doesn't give, it takes. If the dark side doesn't give, it takes. So in order to give him life, it would have to take it from the weakest thing around them, which would be Padme in that instance.
Yeah, but the thing is, if that was the thing, why didn't they just say that instead of saying, "Oh, she's losing the will to live"? It makes it sound so.
They were droids. They didn't know what the Force was.
Yeah, but like someone else could have said it. It's so stupid.
Anyway, scenario B here. There is no attachment rule, which means Obi-Wan would probably already be married. Anakin goes to the Jedi.
He even admitted to Satine he would have left the Jedi Order for her, which I'm so glad he didn't. Satine sucked.
You know, honestly, I really like that moment.
Oh yeah.
I just kind of like that moment for Obi-Wan. You know.
Well, it's very vulnerable for him, and it's not something you see from
No,
him.
it's really not.
Because he seems like a very die-hard, Jedi follower, and he's
And
like,
it's so tragic
yeah.
when Satine dies, because he doesn't give in.
I will admit it is tragic. I wasn't the biggest fan of Satine.
No, but that was still a nice, not a nice moment. So then let's go scenario B here. Anakin goes to the Jedi Council and says, "Hey, I love Padme and I want to marry her," even though she's like, well, she's only like 5 years older than him, but
yes.
But it's like, hey, I want to marry Padme. So let's say Yoda officiates the wedding. You know, it's just like.
Gosh.
So then, but whenever there's a moment,
Can he be on that little
because here's the
floating
thing.
thing?
Throughout the Clone Wars, if Padme's in trouble, he would get this feeling of belonging. Because most of what Anakin's problem was throughout the Clone Wars is that he had this double-ended frustration with the Council. Because the Council wouldn't tell him some things, and he didn't feel like he could trust the Council with anything, and he definitely couldn't trust them with Padme, because it's like, it always seemed like he and the Council were butting heads, because it didn't seem like what was important to him was important to the Council. So let's say he goes to the Council, and they have this rule, they don't have this rule, excuse me, where you can't form attachments. So they get married. Now, whenever Padme's in danger, the Jedi will go, you know what, she's your wife, she's important to you, so she's important to us. So then these visions of her dying in childbirth come along. Who does he go to? The Jedi. He says, look, I see visions of Padme dying in childbirth. I need to look more into this, or we need to figure out a way to protect her. The Jedi say, okay, Anakin. Anakin?
Anakin?
Man,
They don't call him Annie.
They say, okay, Anakin, we will protect her. So guess who he doesn't go to?
Palpatine.
Sidious. Palpatine. I literally just solved their problem.
Just by getting rid of one stinking rule.
One rule, at least for that instance, was their entire downfall.
Yep.
If they didn't have it, then Anakin wouldn't have gone to Sidious, and it would not have been a thing.
There you go.
Barring any unforeseen circumstances that I don't know about. But
Star Wars fans, remake that movie.
I know, really. At least make
Seriously.
well, I mean, it's just not. The rule makes sense, of course, kind of makes sense. But it's like, it's just one of those things I don't like. You know, I don't know how stupid that rule was. In the expanded universe, when Luke Skywalker remade the Jedi Order, he got rid of it. Mm-hmm. He literally, I think he probably said, that's the reason my dad left. That's the reason my dad fell to the dark side.
That's the reason my dad left.
And guess what? I'm in love with this hot redhead named Mara Jade. I want to marry this woman. Who actually tried to kill me on several occasions.
Yes! It was so awesome!
Because she was the Emperor's personal assassin outside of Darth Vader.
Talk about Romeo and Juliet.
She was the Emperor's hand. She literally had tried to kill him on several occasions, especially after the Emperor's death, and then they fell in love.
How does that happen?
through a badass fight scene. I'll tell you that.
I mean, I know who Mara Jade is, but I've never heard like the full story. I knew she was an assassin and eventually married
She was the
Luke,
Emperor's hand. Yeah.
But it's like, how do you go from the Emperor's assassin trying to kill this guy to falling in
I don't
love
know
with
the
the guy
full
you're
story,
trying to kill?
And I can understand why people are ticked off about the getting rid of Mara Jade's existence completely. Because she was a pretty awesome character. Like, her character, but she did die. It was very tragic. They had a son named Ben. Instead of Ben Solo, it was Ben Skywalker.
I'm just going to say that makes more sense.
It makes more sense, yes. It does make more sense.
Ben Solo.
You could say, though, that Ben technically did bring Han and Leia together. You could
say
that. It made more sense for it to be Ben Skywalker than Ben Solo.
I mean, I don't mind it, but at the same
but
time,
also,
I go, why?
they also had Anakin Solo, which kinda made sense.
That makes less sense than Ben.
It doesn't make much sense. So they had Jason and Jaina Solo, which were just kind of just names that they had.
That's fine.
So yeah, that was in the expanded universe. Of course, all that stuff is kind of moot now.
Well, and was it Kiadi Mundi? He had a bunch of daughters?
Adopted daughters.
Adopted
but
daughters.
Still, daughters. Attachment.
Attachment.
Plo Koon had a niece in the Jedi Order. She was killed in Order 66.
Oh, was she the same race as him? Or
yeah.
Oh, okay.
She was in Keldor.
Because I don't remember seeing any others, but that probably wasn't ever shown.
Wasn't in the Clone Wars.
Plo Koon is so awesome.
Plo Koon is my favorite. Plo Koon is one of the best Jedi. And it's so sad that he dies.
I love how they really brought him
fleshed
him
out
in Clone Wars. Especially the episode where he and the clones were like stranded in space.
With the Malevolence?
Yeah, with the Malevolence, and then he was like...
That was some of the first episodes of the Clone Wars, and they were some of the best. It was the Malevolence episodes, especially with fleshing out Plo Koon and his relationship with the clones.
Well, and I don't remember what his exact line was, but they're just like, we're clones, we're meant to be expendable. Yeah, and he's like, not to me. I'm like, dude, you're the best!
Well,
I loved Plo Koon for that.
One of the things I saw in the Clone Wars, when we're talking about the Jedi, that I first thought was an inconsistency, was kind of a plot hole. In Episode 2, not Masameda, Lama Su, Prime Minister Kamino, says that the clones will take any order without question. Without question. They're totally obedient. But in the Clone Wars, they do it a lot.
Yeah.
They question their orders. Whether it's a big thing or whether they make a big deal out of it or not is not really, it differs depending on the episode. But they question a lot. And in the original, in the expanded, in some of the expanded universe books, they were written as like these emotionless, almost droids. But in the Clone Wars, they were these fully fleshed out characters with names and personalities and different haircuts, and one of them was
tattoos,
and one of them was blonde, and he looked weird.
I didn't like the blonde.
He was very weird looking.
Although wasn't Rex slightly blonde, or was he bald?
He's got more.
He's got
kind
fuzz.
of he's got fuzz. I mean,
he's got fuzz.
He probably would be a little more white haired. I don't know.
Yeah, they got tattoos and hair color.
But what I thought that was a plot hole. But eventually I figured out that the Jedi were encouraging them to take names, to become people, pretty much.
And I love that they weren't just another set of stormtroopers.
I really wish. I mean, we're getting season 7 of the Clone Wars later this year. But it's not a full season, and I don't know exactly what episodes are going to be part of it. But there was going to be an episode, because over the span of the Clone Wars, they start to delve into this idea of clones being people. Even though they're only 13 years old, if you think about it, because they're accelerated growth. Which is honestly
they're hormonal teenagers.
That is honestly more politically intriguing than anything the prequels try to do. That's actually something, that's like also actually thought-provoking, because there was actually a thing in universe that was like in one of the books, where there was a group of people who were advocates. So, like, the clones are only, like, 13 years old. Technically, they're minors. Should they even be fighting in this war? That's honestly kind of a thought-provoking thing. That's almost politically intriguing. It's like, that's technically the truth. They've only been on this universe for 13 years. Mm-hmm. 10 to 15, maybe, years. But it's like, so technically, Ahsoka is older than Rex. Actually, they might be the same. They might be the same age, technically.
So now, how old would he be by the time we see him again in Rebels? Or do you really
Clone age? Like, it's like dog years,
Yeah,
Clone years or actual years?
Clone years.
Well, let's say, if they're around 10 years old by the time Phantom Menace begins, 20, so probably around 30-some by that time.
Man,
But
he did
because
not age well.
they're
for 30.
accelerated. Their ages are accelerated.
I know. Just
So they age faster.
I know.
It's
When you say that he's in his 30s, but yet in Rebels,
which
he's
is
he
a
has
really
white beard.
like imagine fleshing this out, maybe like in a full-fledged movie. How sad is that? You're 30 and you're supposed to be in the prime of your life, but yet you're like 60-some.
Yeah.
And you age really fast and you die really early. How kind of sad is that? And you're seen as less than a human by most of the
That's what
galaxy.
working in the public school system will do to you.
Yeah. Or working as the president. Like, I wasn't a big fan of Obama, but
Oh my
man
gosh,
aged.
the way he
was a
aged-
good-looking dude when he first got in office, and then he aged considerably after 8 years in office. That
Well, even
office
after 4 years, it's kind of like, ooh, dang.
got gray and got wrinkled, and I'm just like, I am so sorry, man. Like, any president goes through hell in that office, but
That's for sure.
it's like, okay, that honestly, that's so sad, and that would make such a compelling story to tell.
Now that you mention it,
To
I
flesh
agree.
out. To just think that, I know this has gotten way off topic, but just think about this for a minute. These guys, again, they're like 10 years old when this war starts, technically, but they're like 20. So I imagine their growth has probably doubled.
I think that maybe they're tiny. Well, I think it's just because the guy who played him in the movie didn't look in his 20s. So you kinda think
they're
that
you know,
a little
20s,
older.
maybe they're 30s. But then by the time they're 30, they're like 60, 70 years old, maybe.
Yeah.
Like their bodies are, because their aging is accelerated. Just think about how sad of a thing that. And again, you're considered less than human, because you were
Yeah.
grown in a vat, and you're all technically the same dude.
Yeah.
And the people who created you want you to think that you are nothing more than a number. The Kaminoans are a-holes. Like the Kaminoans,
Yeah.
I hate the Kaminoans. Wanna know why? Because they killed Fives.
Fives!
Well, they caused Five's death. Technically, the clones killed Five's, but they caused Five's death in the Clone Wars. Oh,
I hated that.
Nala Se. I hated her. Nala
Freaking-
Se. Anyway, but it's just like... So the Jedi encouraged the clones to be their own people. To be their own... That's why Rex, Wolf, and Gregor did not do Order 66. Because in the Clone Wars, they had an arc. And the thing is, over the Clone Wars, they had these arcs of them becoming humans. Some of the best episodes of the Clone Wars were of them defying, like saying, we are not just another number. We're not just
Remember 99?
things. 99, one of the purest characters.
I loved him.
And he died and it was so sad.
That broke
but
my
the
heart.
Umbara arc. The Umbara arc of the Clone Wars, 4-part episode where they're on the planet of Umbara, is some of the best episodes in the entire Clone Wars. Because of the worst freaking character of General Ponkrell. A-hole extreme, who turned evil.
He was the character that first ever made me swear at a show.
Because the clones, it's just this, like, they don't have enough time on screen time to make this kind of, like, this, this existential question of who are we? They just, I am not just another number, that's Fives. Because Krell thinks of, he's a Jedi who pretty much thinks of clones as numbers. They are they're just cannon fodder.
They're expendable.
To throw at the enemy. Whereas Jedi like Obi-Wan and Anakin and
Mace
Plo Koon
and Plo
are up
Koon.
with the front, fighting with their soldiers, with their men. Best line of Rex. Plan that crosses plan that crosses men, not clones, men.
Yep.
Great moment for Rex. When he stands up to General Krell. Says, we are not clones, we are men. I love that moment when he stands up to that moron.
That's why Rex is the best.
Well, he was evil, but Rex isn't evil, but Krell was evil.
Well, I know.
And then eventually we got to the, we found out how Order 66 went down, or how it was supposed to go down. They had implants in their heads. And this, this would make so, the clones had nightmares about killing the Jedi. They talk about that because they removed the chips, a clone named Tup, his malfunction, so they removed it from his head, and then he died shortly thereafter, and he talked about how he was free from the nightmares. And then Fives had his removed and said the same thing to Rex when he died, and they all have these nightmares of killing the Jedi. And then eventually, I wanted to see this play out where Rex, Wolf, and Gregor get together and they say, we got it, it sticks with them. Fives dies in Rex's arms. They were friends. He dies in his arms, and then it sticks with him, clearly, that he didn't think Fives was crazy. Everyone else thought Fives went crazy, but he didn't. So he removed it from his head, and then he went on to be a freaking hero, even more so. Because He sided with the Rebel Alliance. He fought in the Battle of Endor. He's in the movie. He's the dude he's the old guy with the mustache and the beard. That is canon now.
It is major retcon.
That is canon now, retconning to the extreme. Thank you, Dave Filoni. Rex is king.
See, that's how you retcon, J.K. Rowling. Take note.
I know. Great moment. Rex fought in the Battle of Endor. Commander Rex now, no longer captain. Promoted. Amazing guy. Unfortunately, now he's dead. But we need to see that somewhere.
I
Honestly,
don't want to see that.
he deserves a hero's burial, right? Even if he dies just of old age outside of war, he deserves a hero's burial.
He deserves a death like that, honestly. After some of the crap he's had to go through, he deserves just something peaceful.
And one of the saddest lines, because they wrap up this whole kind of thing in the Clone War, or in Rebels, because now that they're kind of able, now that the Republic, or the Empire is done with the clones, they just kind of throw them aside. Put them in retirement homes, as it were.
I thought they were made into stormtroopers, though.
Not all. Oh. And they age. What's good? What good's an old soldier?
True. It's this helmet. I can't see.
Great moment. But also the sad part is they revealed this in Rebels that they did Order 66, and then they regretted it. Oh. And then they were sad about it. Okay. And they never showed Cody. All right.
Cody!
That one makes me sad because Cody was friends with Obi-Wan, and I don't want to see what happened after that.
No.
Because I think it probably didn't last forever. And eventually, they were, released from the service, and then they said later that we had these things that made us do it. They were made to do it. They were made to do it. And so it's one of those, that when, in the series finale of Rebels, Wolf and Gregor, who are both clones, go back to Rex and with the rest of the group, and they storm the Imperial stronghold on Lothal. And Captain Gregor gets killed, and it was very sad, because they played the clone music, and it made me very sad, because I recognized it. It was so sad. But here's what he said when he died. He pretty much said, at least this time, we chose to believe in this. We died, it's like, I died defending something I chose to believe in. Such a powerful moment for these clones, because if you think, they didn't get to choose the Republic. They didn't get to choose Order 66. But Rex, Wolf, and Gregor, they chose not to. They chose not to fight in Order 66, and they chose to defend, and they chose to side with the rebellion. And Commander Rex fought in the Battle of Endor beside Han Solo in his canon. The Clone Wars has some of the most compelling storytelling, and the problem is, because it's only half an hour long each episode, there's some of the stuff like we've been talking about that you just can't cover.
I know.
Like, covering the life of a clone, covering
the
life of...
another Clone Wars movie.
Let's make a freaking movie about Rex. Like, let's just put all of Rex's stuff together and make a movie just, kind of about the life of Captain Rex.
There's a spin-off I want.
Talking about these, nuanced little things about the clones that just, these make compelling stories right here. Which is why I love Dave Filoni, not George Lucas. Dave Filoni. He created these characters. They created the stories. George Lucas just gave the approval on most of it. Because Dave Filoni created characters and storylines and worlds that are compelling.
Oh, yeah, he did.
And that are amazing. And Rex is just kind of the embodiment of the story of the clones. Which is why I love him, because the clones had some of the best episodes where it was just about them. Sometimes it was just them. There was, other voices in them, but most of it was just them. It's just and it's, I know we've gotten way off topic, but the clones are much better to talk about than the Jedi. I did, but it was very sporadic.
I was about to say, and that's how the Sith became the Sith.
Well, and if I want to talk about Sith, let's talk about Maul. I mean, we are running out of time, but Maul, great inclusion in the Clone Wars. It fleshed out his character so much in a super retcon. And then his inclusion in Rebels and in Solo. Spoiler alert, sorry. Very brief inclusion in Solo, but amazing moment. Made me cheer. Well, didn't make me cheer.
I did not see it
Made
coming.
Me silently cheer. Made me freak out a little bit.
And tell Mom, I told you so.
Actually made me freak out a lot. I told you so.
Oh, no.
That was Red Skull.
I'm thinking Red Skull.
Yeah, that was Red Skull.
I don't know.
She knew Maul. She's seen the Clone Wars. She knew Maul was
I don't know how I suddenly went back to Red Skull. That is my fault. I apologize.
I also love Dave Filoni for delving into the teachings of the Force, the Jedi, and the Sith that the movies just haven't gone into yet.
No.
Certain aspects of the Force, things that it can do, beings that can wield it. Like Bendu in Rebels. He's a giant monkey man who can wield the Force, who turns into a giant storm cloud who freaking destroys AT-ATs.
I am the Bendu.
The one
That weird guy?
in the middle. And then there's the Force wielders on Mortis. Great episodes. Talk
Yes.
about the Force. That George Lucas refuses to give comment on because he's keeping it close to the chest. And I'm like, no, tell us what it means.
What does it mean?
But this long story short, the history of the Jedi and the Sith. Somehow got about the clones, but, that kind of... The clones are the midpoint between the Jedi and the Sith because, the Sith created the clones, but the Jedi used them, and the Sith used the clones to kill the Jedi. But,
Yeah.
I would love to talk more about the clones than I would about the Jedi, to be perfectly honest, because the Sith and the clones are infinitely more interesting. Another reason I think the Jedi are stupid is in the Clone Wars they found out that the clones were created by Dooku. Because they didn't know who Tyrannus was. The audience knew who Tyrannus was. The Jedi did not. They find out that Dooku is the one called Tyrannus. Guess what they do? Absolutely nothing.
Yep.
I mean, they try to meditate on it. Yoda tries to meditate. And then eventually he discovers how to become invincible by becoming a Force Ghost. But other than that, they do nothing. And that's why they died. It was because they knew their enemy created the freaking army that they used. And they did nothing about it. Because they're stupid. Someone orders 66 went down. It's their own dang fault.
Yeah.
That's my rant on the Jedi. Why the Jedi are stupid.
He's had very strong thoughts on the Jedi.
Which is
probably
why
for
I
years.
agreed with what Luke Skywalker said in The Last Jedi. Not everything. He could have said it much better, I will say that. There were much better, more compelling arguments he could have
I'm not
made.
sure which part you're referring to specifically. I mean,
At the height of their powers, they allowed Darth Sidious to rise, create the Empire, and wipe them out.
Okay.
That scene could have been better written, in my opinion. There were much better arguments he could have used, but he didn't. So I will say that about him. But I did agree with what he said when the Jedi needed to die.
What arguments could he have used? I'm just curious.
One of my favorites on the internet. They expelled Ahsoka Tano. Ahsoka freaking Tano. That's all the argument you need to say the Jedi
Done
are
deal
stupid.
right there. That was
But,
the
I mean,
stupidest thing they could have done.
Like, he could have said that the Jedi became victims to their own fear. Something that they are told to train against. Fear. They became victims to their own fear because they suspected Yoda was crazy. They suspected that Dooku was manipulating Yoda through their connection because they were his master and apprentice. They turned on Ahsoka Tano. They quickly turned on each other. Whenever something came up,
they turned into fugitive.
They turned on each other. Like, very quickly. After Ahsoka and everything, like, because they had a couple Jedi fall to the dark side, they were automatically just, like, looking at everybody. Like, are you going to follow the dark side next? Are you going to follow the dark side next? Oh, he's definitely following the
Is
dark
it
side.
you? Is it me?
No, they never asked if it's me. They asked if it was everyone else.
I know.
In the Bible, when Jesus says, one of you is going to betray me, they all like, is it me? Is it going to be me? No, the Jedi was like, it's going to be him, innit? Like,
They're all pointing fingers at other people.
No one looked at Judas and said, oh, it's totally Judas. They were all like, is it me? Like, they were concerned, like, how can I do that? The Jedi were always looking at everyone else.
They all pointed at Judas.
They're like...
They all were saying you were Judas.
Oh, they're like, oh, it's totally going to be him. No, Yoda's having visions. It's Yoda. I don't know how, but it's Yoda. They turned on Yoda, okay?
How dare they?
Even Anakin's like... Actually, it was Obi-Wan. He's like, this is Yoda?
Are you freaking kidding me?
It's Yoda? Like...
That's all the argument
Yoda.
you need?
Y-O-D-A Yoda. Weird, I yanked
Living la vida Yoda.
I know, it's... Anyway, it's going a little long here for this episode, but...
Oh,
Yoda.
We've gone longer.
This is my rant on the Jedi, also the history of the Jedi and the Sith, and talking about the clones as well as the most compelling characters in all of Star Wars. This has been my Forcecast, I guess, because I've been doing most of this talking. Thank you for Paul for the assists, and Morgan for the assists.
Yep.
Thank you for your comments and your questions, by the way.
Oh, of
I
course.
just want to say one thing. I think all of this proves that Jar Jar Binks was the greatest Sith Lord.
Nope. Shut your face.
I don't know if the
Shut your face.
Heard me,
Shut it now.
Shut everything.
I love you.
Yeah, love you too.
Anyway, that has been, well, as he said, Austin's Forcecast with assistance from me and Paul on the topic of the history of the Sith and the Jedi.
Yes.
We were glad to have talked about that, and I had some questions somewhat prepared just because I figured Austin would at least have some answers
Well,
that
next
could
on-
help contribute.
Next on Garen's thing of what to talk about was pretty much the backstory of the villains of Lord of the Rings, which we can both contribute on.
Oh, yeah. Yes, for, backstories of villains from Lord of the Rings and Star Wars. Which we will save that for another episode. Probably next month we'll fit that in since...
We do have things planned for right
Yeah,
now,
we've got things planned for this month. We've only got one planned for March, so we'll throw that in there. Thank you again, Garen, for this suggestion, and we'll
Thank
get
you
to
very
your...
much. I enjoyed talking about it as much as it was broken up and sporadic and went into a rant.
I hope that you enjoyed it, Garen, and that kind of answered whatever questions you have. And if you have other questions, feel free to let us know. And just to all of our listeners in general.
If you'd like more specifics about like certain characters like Malgus or Bane or anyone that I mentioned, please let us know. I would talk about Darth Malgus all day.
Even if it's just, who the heck is Darth Malgus? I've never heard of him.
Malgus.
But anyway, thank you guys so much for listening. We appreciate your support. Please continue to, listen and share this with your friends. I've had people at my work and just friends of mine asking me, hey, what's this all about? And it gets me really excited because it's like, we want to share this. We want people to know about it. So if you have friends that you think will like this, or even family, share it with them. If maybe we've talked about something in our previous episodes that maybe they like, show that episode to them. Kind of get them into it. If you liked this, please like our video. Also, subscribe to our channel. Like us on Facebook at the Forcecast. Email us at forcecast327@gmail.com with comments, questions, or topic suggestions. And also, we haven't had basically a guest on our show in a while. So if you're in our area and you'd like to maybe be a guest, let us know. We'll maybe find some way to work it out. Anyway.
Alex drew this.
Holy crap, that's awesome. Anyway, this has been your local Forcecast, and may the Force be with you.